just a second. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you very much. And welcome to the January 24th Economic Growth and Development. Supervisor McDivitt asked me to chair for him today. He has some appointments he couldn't get out of. So I'd like to begin the meeting and call it to order and ask for approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. We have a motion for that, Supervisor.
I can make that motion.
Oh,
I'm on this committee.
Supervisor Stroud, yes, you are. And
I was before.
Supervisor McGowan.
I can do that.
Thank you so much. Any comments, questions, corrections? Seeing none, I'll call it vote on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. So moving quickly, I'd like to move forward with the workforce development activity with Lexi. I'm sorry, with Liza. But prior to that, in a prior meeting we had this morning, we were talking about the lack of support for CDL drivers that we have in the county and the towns. And without objection, I'd like Kevin Hajost, if he doesn't mind, to give us a brief update on what's happening. And then maybe we can have a discussion about with Liza in terms of what we can do to possibly help with this deficiency.
Sure.
So Kevin, thank you.
Thank you. So during our public works meeting, we talked about the lack of CDL drivers currently. As of right now, I'm down 10 CDL drivers in the county. We're lucky that we haven't had a significant amount of snow this year. Otherwise guys would be working very long hours. The state DOT in every single region just increased the rate of their CDL drivers, and it can range anywhere from maybe $3 an hour upwards of maybe $7 an hour. Depends on where the region is. Down in New York City, they're paying a little bit more than what we would pay up here, which is making it more and more difficult for us to get CDL drivers here in this county, especially if Region 1, I think the increase put them at $25 an hour to start for a truck driver. I'm at $20 an hour, 20 and change. So it's getting more and more difficult to get drivers to come in. I will let the staff know, or the committee know here, Don Lehman just did a kind of a Facebook post on one of my drivers, and it was fantastic. In fact, it reached 1,000 hits. I mean, it was huge. And I think between him and I, we had one person reach out and said they were interested in coming to work for the county. So one of the things that I initiated when I took over as superintendent was not to require drivers to come in having a CDL license. We would train them in-house. It worked out well because I could do it with my staff in-house. As of February 7th of 2022, the Federal Motor Carrier created a new rule that all drivers going for a CDL needed to go through entry-level driver training. With that entry-level driver training, at first, I couldn't necessarily do that in-house. So we were looking for programs where that could be done. We determined, and with a little help with Liza as well, that BOS has a program. So for a Class B driver, I think the cost was around $1,700, and then for a Class A, it was about $2,900. Liza and I had discussions, as well as with my confidential assistant, Joan. We figured out that Liza would have some funding, and we would start still bringing in, individuals without licenses. We can get them to these driver training programs. The problem is BOS is filled because there's so many people going through this entry-level driver training, and it affects all the municipalities within Warren County, all the municipalities across New York State, as well as United States. So there is definitely a shortage of CDL drivers. We're trying to come up with different ways to kind of attract. We thought the Facebook post that Don did on James Binder was huge, and that would be successful. We got one person said they were interested. It's becoming more and more difficult. And I don't know what'll happen if we can't get drivers in. I mean, you all know that there's a town over in Washington County that currently is from 4 drivers down to 1, and they declared an emergency because they cannot plow their roads with 1 plow driver. So they're asking the other towns and the county to assist them in getting their roads cleared. So again, through Liza, I think she has a great opportunity that we can support some of these individuals that we bring in. I've also learned from my conference that I was just at in Saratoga that we believe we can do the driver training in-house, and I'm trying to figure out the process of being able to do that. But the fact of the matter is there's just a shortage out there, and we're not competing just with the state and their increase and the towns that pay a little bit more than us. We're also competing with commercial entities out there as well. I mean, your long haul truck drivers are doing, they're paying more to get that guys in as well. So it's tough across the board. I would really hate for us or any of the towns in future years to have to do something similar like the city of Albany does, where they hire private contractors to plow roads. And they can hire upwards of 500 contractors a year, and they're given sections or blocks of roads to maintain. And that's how they clear their roads. I think that would be a significant cost increase if the county would have to go to that route, which I'm hoping we don't. But I'm, with Liza's help, we're just looking for ways to attract more CDL drivers to the county.
So thank you, Kevin. It's a good update. Liza, do you have any specific comments? Because I really think that this is something that should be a priority for us for the near term in terms of preparing for next winter or even for the paving season that we have coming up. So Liza?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Kevin, for sharing your experiences. Just so everybody's aware, it has been a priority for the Saratoga Warren Washington Workforce Development Board to focus on CDL recruitment. You may recall we did a truck rodeo last fall at SPAC in the parking lot, which was very successful. And we did have people apply CDL sponsorship from that event. The challenge and the barrier has been that BOCES does not have enough instructors and trainers. So people may finish the online portion, the classroom portion, but they don't have, BOCES doesn't have enough people, instructors, to do the training hours, the required training hours. There's been a waiting list of like 3 months on average. During that time, we lost a couple people that we sponsored because they got tired of waiting. And one of them then enrolled in a welding class instead. And another one took a different job. But we still have sponsored, last year we sponsored 4 people through CDL training. This year we're currently doing 2, plus we have additional applications in. The challenge is that there aren't enough trainers. We do give them the option to go to the CDL school in Manans if they have the transportation to get down there. It does cost a little bit more, so we would rather continue to train through our local BOCES. But we need CDL drivers. And so we're giving them that option, and we'll pay more for sponsorship if they do choose to do the CDL school through Manans. Those are the main things I wanted you to be aware of. We have helped the town of Johnsburg with 2 sponsorships, and the city of Glens Falls DPW with 1 as well. And I've talked to Superintendent Hajos about commitment as well. We would, if we're sponsoring somebody, just like we do at the county through other academic or training programs, we would like somebody to commit for 1 to 3 years, but we don't want to scare them away as well. So we're in conversations about what that documentation and commitment would look like. I also think while private sector can pay more for some of these jobs, I think we can continue to highlight all the benefits and perks of working for the county. And whether it's opportunities for cross training, opportunities for advancement, our benefits package, our work environment, I feel like we can continue to promote those things to set us apart from our competition.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Liza, this is Liza and Kevin. Since we can, you have your online and you have this and you have that, and it's the training, and the training is basically getting out there on the road. Why can't, who's a better trainer than for you?
Drivers.
Your drivers who know your roads and everything else is that something we have to go through the state to ask? Or, I mean, if this is a problem, it's across the state, and and unfortunately, that New York State could say, "Oh, hey, look, we'll just pay you more money." You can stay. Unfortunately, we can't do that as easily. So, but if it's really just down to the training and the road time, why can't any of your people be qualified as a trainer? I mean, think about it. How many kids, grew up in our families, and we taught them how to drive our way.
Well, actually, that's what my thought was for bringing this up, is to try to figure out whether we could propose some kind of method to address this using Kevin's staff and Liza's ability to get us some training and possibly some money to make this happen. that we can find a way to maybe entice people to come here, work with the county, get trained at the same time, and find some way to have some limit in terms of, not necessarily a limit, but commitment from them that they get this training, that they stay with the county or possibly even stay with the towns for a certain amount of time to help us recoup that investment we put into them. So I'm not sure how we go with that. It's my thought, but I'm just trying to lead the discussion. So I'm going to back it off and ask the committee or others what they might think.
So as far as the training goes, we did train in-house. And then when the federal motor carrier put out this new regulation, at first you had to go through this certification process to train in-house. After, again, and when I went to my winter conference, we determined there was a couple other counties that have gone through it, and they said it wasn't very difficult to do. So I have currently 2 individuals that are more than willing to be certified instructors. They're drivers, so classroom time, they probably don't do that as well. They may need some training with how to teach the class. They know it, but teaching classroom material is a little bit different than teaching in a truck. So as I said during Public Works, I am gathering all the information so that we can do that in-house, and then we can certify. Basically, what ends up happening is when they get done with the training with us, we certify them to federal motor carriers to sit for a CDL. So that's what we're trying to take on in-house. So the thing I can honestly say, and I think this would happen probably for any municipality, I'm assuming they'll look for a little bit of a stipend or something because they're doing the training in-house. Whether it's a couple dollars more that they receive because they're the instructors or something, that, and maybe with Liza's money or something like that, that we can make that work. But once I gather that information, as I said during Public Works, I'll bring it back next month to figure out how we can get our guys certified in-house to do that training.
Brad, again?
Follow through, because that's what you said, is basically what the problem is everybody's done their paperwork and they're online and everything else, and they're waiting to get in the truck. So this is something moving. Hey, if it's a couple dollars for a stipend, to why they're training, I think that's a good idea. To drive, but this way it helps to qualify it. And that, by the way, it was a wonderful article that was written there. I did make a comment on Facebook. I'm just really, it's just nice. But like I said, you could get more people like that,
Agree.
So
Liza?
And just so everybody's aware, we do have the funding to cover people through these training programs. So I have my federal primary grant, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, and they'll go through the application process, and we typically fund people up to $3,000, but I do have flexibility to go beyond that if I need to. They cannot make over $30 an hour. We raised that ceiling so that we could help more people. In addition to that, I have ARPA training dollars. And so maybe we could use some of the ARPA money for the stipends for the instructors, and I'm happy to support that process.
I'm just going to ask the committee whether this is something that I think we're in approval of, what the next steps might be.
I'm excited.
Should we just encourage them to proceed, bring it back to Kevin's committee, maybe this committee next month, personnel next month or sooner? I have a feeling this is wide ranging in terms of what it's going to impact.
Sounds like we're already doing this. Is that correct?
Are we already doing this, Kevin?
To some degree, we are with the BOS program and them going through the application process with Liza. They are. For me to do it in-house, we haven't gotten to that stage yet. So that's why I said during Public Works, and I can say here, we can gather that information, see how I can get a couple of my staff certified to do that training, and then I can kind of come back to committee. I can try to have it before personnel. I'm not sure I will.
Friday.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to have it Friday. Sorry. But I can definitely have it by next committee meeting to let you know kind of the process of what we have to do.
Thank you, Kevin. Supervisor Stroud.
Yes, thank you, Liza. Minutes, how much more is that than BOCES?
Yeah, depending on whether it's CDL A or B and whether they're also paying for the online course or not, it can range anywhere between, $5,000 and $8,000. Whereas at BOCES, it's usually between, 1,200 and 2,800.
But BOCES, it seems like our options are limited.
Correct.
Is there waiting list for Manans or can they just go right down? I mean, it's only an hour drive and it is twice as expensive, but
Right. It's a shorter waiting list.
it is one way of getting
Yep.
these CDL people.
Yep, we had the two guys from Johnsburg chose to go to Manans to do theirs.
Maybe we ought to make better use of Manans since we could not do anything with BOCES there. They have their limits and that's what it is. And Manans seems to be a better opportunity.
I did hear that BOCES recently hired another trainer, but I haven't been able to confirm that. I will try to confirm that. We certainly would like to use local. We certainly would like to pay less. But if that's the holdup, then we are supporting people who choose to make the drive down there.
Okay.
And John, I'm hoping that if we can get our guys certified in-house, we don't have to worry about either or. We can do it here and it'd be much less.
Okay.
Brad?
But one of the things I would say about pushing for the Manans and that, because my son has been is a truck driver and has the CDL. And I know when he's gone with new companies, they go to this training course and it does cost, but also too, there's a list of people there at the end saying, now that you're done, a lot of before you had to get so many years underneath on the seat, but now they're so desperate for drivers, if, depending on what you do, and then they'll take you right out for a test run to see if, because, we could send our people down there for the $7,000, but that, how do we guarantee that they're gonna sit in our seats?
That's
Go for it.
where we say that they must commit.
And we talked.
Liza and I
about
were
that.
talking about it
Yep.
between 1 and 3 years, but at a minimum of 2, possibly more, so that they stay on board here. Like she said, it's to scare them away if we tell them 3. That might be a hard commitment for somebody, but
Well, it's $7,000, 3 years. I mean, it's a tough situation. So I would really try to lean for training.
So I'll take it as kind of like we have an action item, we have some plans, we're going to work through it and hopefully make a difference here along these lines. So moving forward, Liza, your action items.
Sure, thank you. Oh, thank you. I will also add real quick, one other thing I forgot to mention, as CDTA is merging with Greater Glens Falls Transit. It is my goal to recruit people from the rural communities where they'll be adding more bus routes for CDL sponsorship, because they know the roads, they know the community, they know, the people. So that is, once those routes are determined with CDTA, that will be one of our priorities, is recruiting drivers from those communities.
That's great. And one of my thoughts is that Kevin can get this in-house. He can help the towns as well as CDTA possibly, if he has enough staff to be able to pull that off and
Absolutely.
see what happens.
So I just have one resolution request for you today, and then I have some other updates around workforce development. So the one resolution request I have for you is to fill a vacant position for coordinator. My coordinator took our youth counselor position, which she had been, working closely with her for a couple years anyway. So she has seamlessly transitioned as a provisional appointment, but now I need to fill the coordinator position, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, John. Second by Brad. Thank you. Liza?
Are there any?
Any other questions?
No.
No questions? Call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You opposed? That carries.
Thank you. I have a few other updates, if I may, share with the committee.
Please.
Thank you. Our unemployment rate is still around 3%. The state rate is still around 4%. We should have this week more county specific data that usually it comes out this week for the previous month. So for the December rate, it does always go up slightly in the winter, but we're still seeing very low unemployment across the county and across the country. I have been in touch with Lehigh Cement, which is closing, which most of you know, in April in Glens Falls. They are receiving rapid response services from New York State Department of Labor. And their HR department and leaders reached out to me about doing a job fair for their current employees. They have about 80 employees. And there's many other companies locally who want to hire them. So my goal is that job fair happens in Glens Falls because this was a Glens Falls company. But the companies who will be a part of the fair will be from all of our region, of course.
Most of it's.
So that's in the works for planning. We are very grateful to have our DOL partners in this process with their rapid response services. And both Lehigh and DOL are keeping me updated on this as we prepare for their closure in April. We are starting our planning for our 3rd annual Lake George High School Summer Job Fair. And today and this week, I'm also meeting with Glens Falls High School and Queensbury High School. I've been meeting with Queensbury leaders as they want to do more career exploration programs and activities, but we are very happy that more high schools are on board now for summer job fairs. And in addition to that, thank you again to the ARPA committee. I have hired a new person using ARPA funds as a student to careers development specialist to focus specifically on our youth career exploration programs. And he starts on Monday. So I'm super excited. And I thank you again to the ARPA committee. We will pilot this for 4 years. And I'm confident that I'll be able to use other funding to support that beyond. This position is also really helpful for surrounding counties to see how we're doing this work, because they're very interested in having folks on their teams who can also support the school districts. The goal is that we're supporting each school district with just enhancing and adding to their existing career exploration programs. For example, Queensbury Middle School has an 8th grade class that focuses on a lot on career exploration and life skills. And I've been working with that teacher to bring in business speakers, right? So that our students are learning more about local career opportunities. So that's one example. We also know Queensbury does internships. Some schools have Future Business Leaders of America. We'd like to see more clubs around the trades and careers. So I'm super excited that this young man will be able to lead some of those initiatives. Whereas my youth counselor is still focused primarily on our youth GED class, which is full and with a waiting list still. There's pros and cons to that. And our summer youth employment program, that's what she's managing primarily. So those were my main updates around workforce development, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Liza. Any questions for Liza? Any encouragement?
Keep up
Any
the great
issues?
work.
I know, I'm really proud of the work she's able to do for us. So thank you, Liza. Moving on, Mr. Lamont. Welcome.
Another year.
I thought it was less than a year.
Yes, well, no, we're starting another year. I have 5 actions, requests for the committee action. The first one really relates to the Countryside Grant Awards, which we in-house have identified as Community Development 76 and CD 77. Those were grant awards for the roof and for the HVAC for MERV 13 compliance. Since the county through DPW had already engaged Clough Harbor for design work long before these grants were awarded, we could not follow the federal or the state procurement requirements because the consultants had already been selected. So the state has sent paperwork came in. They have moved the administration money, the engineering money over into the activity side. This resolution request just mirrors our change in our state contract.
We have a motion by Craig, second by Brad. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Okay. Item number 2, under these same programs under the Community Development Block Grant Program, there are 2 public hearings required, one prior to submission and one when 80% of the funding is expensed. We anticipate 80% of the funding being expensed in May. So I'm just trying to get the public hearings lined up that will be required. We'll provide Amanda or the language that's required for those notices, but requesting that those public hearings be authorized.
Need a motion for this?
Yes.
We do. John, motion, and Brad, second. Any questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries also.
And just as a follow-up to that, the state has agreed that even though those are two separate grants, we can do that in one public hearing. So that'll save us fees and the item number 3 is the housing study. Again, the same thing. Second public hearing will be required. We anticipate that threshold will be reached in March, and requesting that second public hearing for the housing study.
Need a motion to bring this to the table? John, Brad, second. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries also.
Item number 4, Sarah, do you want to handle that?
Sure, this is just an extension of our existing tech support contract with VHB. So we just have a hourly as needed technical support contract for any usually minor stuff that we can't do in-house. We only use it if we need it. We don't, goes back to the general fund. So had that in place last year, just would like to extend it again through this year.
Okay, a motion to approve or bring to the floor? Motion, Brad or John and Brad, second. Any questions, comments?
I will say
Right.
that this was part of our budget items. It's in our budget to do this.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Brad, do you have a question? No?
No,
And this is just technical support? GIS technical support?
Yeah, it's usually for stuff for programming, server related stuff that is just our IT department can't handle because it's very specialized. So
Okay. Very good. So I'll call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries also.
request number 5 is to create a capital fund for the Northern Borders Regional Council grant award. The total project is 200,000, 160,000 from the grant and the other 40,000 from local sources. And so we'd like to establish the capital fund so we can move that project forward.
Need a motion? Brad and Craig, any questions, comments?
This is. And the grant is for.
Ethan, do you want to talk about what the grant is for?
Yeah, that was the multi-use trail modernization and connectivity study. Connect to Empire State Trail, Lake George.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? None, that carries.
And that's all I have as far as requests from the committee.
No discussion items at all? Any other questions from the committee? Brad?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier, Ethan, we what's your environmental concerns? Thank you, Chairman Bremer. We talked about the Muller property and going to and looking into grants or something to do that. And I know we've got something going on with the bike trail study, maybe the possibility of merging that property into the bike trail. And I don't know if you happen to catch any of that or no, but just whatever you can do, being our master grant finder, writer, along with your chief in command, helping find something that maybe we could do something. It is kind of a key property, but I'm really trying to keep it out of the local taxpayers as much as possible. But biking has become and being a hub between and the Coles Woods, there's so much going on. So if there's anything you can do to help us there, that would be great.
Yeah, actually, we had we looked at the existing environmental assessments of that site. And it looks like in order for that to be used for passive or active recreation, there might need to be some additional environmental review. So I think that would probably be
That I'm familiar with.
yeah, so that might be the preliminary step. We're going to hear about the round of next state grants that happen on an annual basis, probably in May. So we'll be able to figure out which one to target in May. But in advance of that, it might behoove us to do some of the additional site work, because it's not anticipated that a granting agency would give us money for, design, engineering, or even implementation without some sort of reduction of the uncertainty surrounding the environmental contamination of it.
All right, yeah, no, if you don't mind, but basically on that particular thing is that is an okay site until we put a shovel in the ground. So
Yep.
no matter what we do, and they tore that building down to the floor, and that was one of my pet peeves, or I wouldn't even say looking into it, but I like to read those reports because sometimes they're stretched a little too far, and then sometimes maybe not enough, but you're correct, there is an unknown there, so so maybe we can look in to see what we can do to get a little testing, but otherwise everything's fine as long as we don't disturb anything on top. So, thank you.
Yeah.
So there's a choice for the committee where the agendas are complete. We have until 12:45 before the next committee starts. So we could either adjourn or we can ask our planning team to give us a more detailed update on the status of what's happening with the housing study, which I'm kind of surprised it's going to be 80% complete in March. If there's any more that we can kind of gather for the issues and anything that might be upcoming with the housing study on the comprehensive plan is another thing that's happening. So it's up to the committee. We can adjourn, and those that aren't on the next committee can take off, or we can continue this. So I'll leave it up to you guys. I'd like to learn more.
Updates are good.
Updates are good. So Wayne?
Okay, the housing study, that contract, RFP was out. It was awarded to Nova Gradic. They have assembled their team, and they are basically where they are right now is in all the data acquiring. And they've been meeting with Patricia. They've reached out to some of the local the Realtor Association, and they're doing their own assessment. The big thing for them that's new for that, well, not necessarily that new, but is dealing with the Adirondack Park Agency restrictions. That was something I had a discussion with them before they were selected. And so they're spending some of their time really getting acquainted with the agency and how recommendations could go forward there. Kind of related to that, I don't know how many have had a chance to look at the scoping plan for the Climate Action Council. And I think when NISAC has put out some bulletins, and looking at those, there are some concerns that I have with some of the potential state actions as they relate to home rule and housing development, and the states saying that if local municipalities do not alter zoning to allow for increased housing development, that they will override that, they will supersede that as a state objective. And so there's a couple areas that I have some concerns that may touch on I don't want to call it a violation, but they're usurping home rule. And I think it's something that we need to take a look at. It's been a discussion of the County Planners Association for the past couple months. And Alex from NISAC brought up some issues at our meeting last Friday. So I think it's something that we should be concerned about, maybe not overly alarmed at this point, but I really would like to see the state, the governor's commitment for a 1% increase in housing, and how that relates to the Adirondack Park Agency. And are they going to override some of the park agency restrictions for that development? So I think there's some questions that we can ask and it really bears looking into and keeping on track of. The executive summary of this is 23 pages long of their scoping plan. I'd encourage everybody to read it. The other 445 pages really just go into supporting the executive summary. But they do make some assumptions in there that I think have some really long-term impacts on housing choice and on how county government functions.
Thank you, John.
Along with what Wayne was just saying, I remember in reading the proposed for discussion purposes, that a certain percentage of your zoning, either through, in order to promote affordable housing, one way would be to allocate a certain amount of your zoning, that's residential zoning, specifically for affordable housing. That being one of the ways that you could obtain that. There were others discussed. That too would be in the possibility of mandates forthcoming.
And there's also a look at transit-oriented development in that if there's not a realignment of local zoning that would allow for that increase in the within 1 mile of transit lines, that the state could supersede that. The other thing is under this climate action policy document is that the priority is to convert commercial it's office space basically to residential housing. And how does that affect our business centers? So again, some of this is very broad brush, and the devil's going to be in the details, but I think we need to be very in tune with how they develop those details, because I have some concern. So that's just as it relates to housing. There's other concerns with this as far as the financial impacts. They talk about a lot of grant subsidies, but we all know that as taxpayers, we're going to pay those subsidies anyway. So it's not free money. So anyway, that's a kind of a tangent to the housing study, but I think it's something that the housing study really needs to look at. And I do want to, have some of that discussion with the team. Patricia in the office, who has been the housing czar since I came here, is the one that's really working with the group. And unfortunately, there's been a family health issue downstate, and actually she's coming back today, so we'll get more on track with what's going on. She's had a number of phone calls with them and conference Zoom meetings, but I have not been privy to all of those.
So I'm not sure how many supervisors are aware of this executive summary. I haven't seen it. So if you wouldn't mind maybe passing it out to the committee, maybe to the whole board.
I can send a link. I mean, it's 445 pages.
I was just hoping to get the executive summary, but
first
in any
23
event.
pages.
Footnotes.
So thank you, Wayne. What about our comprehensive plan? Ethan, maybe give us an update?
Ethan is a person assigned in the office to manage that.
Yeah, I think we got the legal end of it sorted out with the consultant, and should like to kick off this spring pending some additional details. But the nice part about this would be that we'd be able to integrate the findings from the housing study in advance of getting to the planning process where we start developing our goals and implementation strategy. So timing wise, we're in a pretty good spot right now with that. I anticipate though that, with any planning process, especially with the comprehensive plan, I know a few of you are doing it right now in your own towns. Really it's, establishing the inventory analysis. We're all working on the same basis of facts, identifying issues and opportunities, and then developing sort of a broad vision for the community, and then identifying the actions that will get us there. So and that's anticipated to take, over the course of a year to 18 months, starting this spring.
Good. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been a proponent from day one on this comp plan, recognizing that we as board of supervisors really do not have a guiding document for our decision making. And so as we make up this comprehensive plan, a couple ideas come to mind. They're not necessarily my original ideas, but one is that it's more of a strategic plan. I think we had talked about this early on with Ethan, that it's not just a general feel good, but definitely to help direct our actions. And as look through the standing committees list here on things, the way we divide up the county in our areas of interest, is there a way to develop the strategy based on or closely to the way that we make our decisions at the county level?
It was, yeah, I would certainly recognize that. I think for any plan to be effective, it has to understand, how policy is currently implemented at the county level. So it will certainly be sensitive to that. And it will be different from a municipal comp plan, as a lot of you are familiar with, a town or village, because there won't be as much of an emphasis on land use regulations as there could be in a comprehensive plan. So, in county government, we deal with so much more than a local government might do, right? Mental health and, public, safety and whatnot. So it'll be an interesting process. It'll be a really good opportunity too for residents of Warren County to understand how the county works and have them provide some insight into what their priorities are and what they think that county government could be doing. It'll be a good dialogue.
Instead of having to watch the YouTubes for our Board of Supervisors meetings, what you're saying in terms of how government works here?
We won't go there.
No comment. That's all right. You don't have to comment on that. Sarah, I don't want to leave you out because I'm always amazed at some of the stuff you have going on, but is there anything special happening this year, since I'm going to be vice chair and I won't be able to sit in this chair every once in a while to make this happen? So I had to take advantage of my opportunity.
So I think one big thing on our list for this year is doing an updated needs assessment and implementation plan for GIS countywide. We've done 2 of these in the past. One was in 2001, one was in 2009. So we're definitely in need of an update. Technology has changed an enormous amount since 2009, and we've also done a lot of stuff since then. So we'll be meeting with all of the departments and getting a sense of their workflow and determining any things in their day-to-day operations, as well as with providing additional public access to documents and services that we can provide to each of the county departments. So we're hoping to kick that off soon. Should take a few months, and then we'll report back to you. And then we're also just getting really fully ramped up with our Stories from Open Space project. We received some occupancy tax funding for that. We have 6 interns on board, 3 from SUNY Plattsburgh, 3 from Skidmore. We have 10 projects and we are full steam ahead. So we should have some very exciting deliverables, I guess, from those projects over the next few months.
We're good, Wayne?
Sarah, could you talk about letterboxing?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So for the letterboxing for this year, we decided to take advantage of a county asset, as well as prepare for the upcoming 250th celebration of the Revolutionary War. And we are going to be focusing on letterboxing the bikeway with a focus on French and Indian Revolutionary War era history. The passport will be the same dimensions as the current passport, but it is going to open linearly, and we're going to have a detailed bike map on one side. So we figured we kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this and have a really nice updated bikeway map. Hopefully can take advantage of some of the findings with Ethan's study that he'll be working on, and then the back will be the letterboxing stuff. So
I remember when this started, there were just we were amazed at how many people were engaged with this. What are we up to now? Do you have any statistics from this past year?
We ran them.
yeah, we ran them. So next month we'll be back with our annual report and a full presentation on the annual report. That will be part of it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
That's great. Wayne, one more thing.
One other thing I'd like to ask, Sarah and I had a discussion, and as far as kicking off the GIS needs assessment within the county, We'd like Sarah to be able to do a 15-minute presentation at the next department head meeting that kind of talks about how it could be integrated into the use and expose other department heads to what is possible. So whenever that would be ready, Sarah would like some time. So
With that, we're getting close to the end of my allotted time. So anything else we need to discuss today? Motion, Jen.
Well, just a comment that
Sure.
I have given trolley and bicycle tours using the Warren County Bikeway
Mhm.
with families, young kids and adults, seniors. I mean, the variety of people presenting the history that follows easily accessible along the bikeway. It's about a 23-mile journey. And again, it'd be nice to have a nice parking area to stop with these families at the Mullen site on Bay Road. I just had to get that.
With that,
Called the Queensbury Glens Falls Welcome Center.
motion to adjourn. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Was there public
Amanda
comment?
just texted me that we had 874 finishers and for Historians Challenge and 911 First Wilderness in 2022.
Nice. Wow. Nice. Very good.